if you haven't been paying attention to fantasy, if you've just woken back up and you're logging back into your redraft leagues, you might be slightly surprised to see a rookie going at the 1-2 turn. Rich, you called him a bona fide superstar in your draft guide. You said he could produce immediately. Josh, when you were going through the rookie process, you said he makes the difficult look easy and the demanding look effortless.
I did.
But when Ja'Marr Chase was drafted in 2021, he was the wide receiver 29 in best ball drafts, finishing as the half PPR wide receiver 4. We are just not getting that kind of discount on Marvin Harrison. He sees the wide receiver 9 on Underdog, going at the 13th pick, 15th pick on Sleeper. So Josh, in both best ball and redraft, is Marvin Harrison overvalued, undervalued, or is this just where he belongs to be?
Unfortunately, I'm going to say overvalued despite loving the player. It's so funny you brought up Ja'Marr Chase. I don't know if you guys remember. And I love this month of August. You know, we get preseason action every single team this week, 16 games, all these rookies showing out. But Ja'Marr Chase's training camp was just full of drops. And I believe that made him drop in all those drafts, remember? I mean, it was wild. It was wild. And anyways, that's a sidetrack. Back to Marvin Harrison Jr. Love him as a player. The issue is he basically has to put up Puka Nacua numbers this past season, or Justin Jefferson rookie year numbers, or as you're saying, Ja'Marr Chase rookie year numbers. Because, like, let's say Puka last year was the wide receiver 7 in points per game, and what we're having to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. as the wide receiver 8 or wide receiver 9 right now. That's difficult to do. And I'm really excited about this Cardinals offense, really excited about Kyler Murray. Think Drew Petzing is an emerging play caller that people are going to get on their radars more and more as the season goes along. But man, the thirst is real. And maybe this can dovetail in a conversation of how close should it be between Marv and Malik Nabers. But let's, Rich, stay on the topic of MHJ Jr. here.
No, I love the idea of bringing up Nabers, because I think for me, that's the person that we need to frame this conversation with, in terms of, I love Marvin Harrison Jr. I gave Marvin Harrison Jr. my highest film grade in the last 10 years since I've been grading rookie wide receivers. He is a phenomenal prospect who does so much, and I'm expecting big things from. But I just can't get on board with the price difference between him and Malik Nabers. And if you're giving me, you know, I said in my draft guard that this is very much a 1A, 1B in terms of them as rookies coming out. I don't see the situation as massively different. I know that people will look at the quarterbacks and say Kyler's far better, but I think Arizona has got potentially more target competition. I think Trey McBride is a bona fide stud that's going to command targets. I think everything I've read, everything I'm seeing about this Giants offense, I think it is going to be force-fed through Malik Nabers. And I think that, to me, yes, I would take Marvin Harrison over Malik Nabers straight up, but I think they need to be in at least the same tier. Yeah. And I just can't get on board with the price that I'm having to pay to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. because, as you said, he's being drafted almost at his ceiling. Like, in order to warrant the price, he has to have the greatest rookie season we've ever seen. And there is a chance that could absolutely happen. He is one of the best prospects we've ever seen. But when you're drafting and it needing to be historic for him to just pay off his cost, that to me is too rich. And yeah, I'd rather look elsewhere.
Yeah, you're comparing the first pick of the second round to the third pick of the third round in Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers. So.
And it opens up even more than that if we throw into it the wider redraft, because there's such a variety across the different platforms. Malik Nabers' ADP on Yahoo is 67th overall at the minute.
Wow.
But Marvin Harrison is still going as like a top 18 pick there. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you
so Tom, I'll play devil's advocate here. Okay. As you know, all summer I've been on this draft good players on good teams binge, and again, a little sidetrack. For that reason, I think almost all of the second round wide receiver stuff and order and ranking of it is all screwed up on Underdog at this moment. But that's another conversation. If it comes down to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers, I think the play caller I really like with Arizona. The quarterback is head and shoulders better. Offensive line, almost certainly better. And I'm okay that there are still pieces around with Trey McBride and James Conner and all this stuff versus what we get with Malik Nabers. And it's just fascinating to me what we're in year 3 with Brian Daboll / Mike Kafka. And on some level in New York, they far and away exceed expectations in their first year by making the playoffs. And it was through like the edges of the game. Like it was in situational football, quarterback mobility and scrambling and athleticism. And they just didn't have any playmakers at all. And Rich, I totally agree with you that like we're getting all these amazing highlights, but it's like the boy who cried wolf for me, because last year we got all of these amazing highlights with Daniel Jones throwing in training camp. Like he didn't miss a pass. It made me draft so much Darren Waller because I thought he was going to expand the offense, but obviously injured, didn't happen. To your point, I do wonder if a talent like Malik Nabers allows his team to expand the offense in a way that we have never seen before. Because I certainly do not believe that Brian Daboll has sat in the lab the last 2 years and said, this is how I envision playing offense at the NFL level. And maybe we actually do see what he really wants to do here in 2024.
Can I push back a little bit on the kind of play caller definitely going to Arizona? I think with Brian Daboll taking back play calling responsibilities, I think, we saw him craft some pretty unique and interesting offenses in Buffalo where he forwarded the ball and had some fantastic, wide receiver 1 fantasy seasons. I don't think we can definitely say that he's an inferior play caller to Drew Bledsoe. And I get what you're saying about the quarterback situation, but for me, when I think the quarterback situation is more impactful for guys kind of like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, that we're fishing around 100 targets. There's a world where Malik Nabers could be getting 150 targets this year. It doesn't really matter who's throwing him the ball. If he's getting 150 plus targets, that's going to be a phenomenal fantasy season. And I just think that sometimes we overlook that force feed and alpha situation when there's inferior second, third targets in an offense.
Now, with that said, I want to let it be known that I'm not taking Marvin Harrison Jr. where he's being drafted, and I am taking Malik Nabers where he's being drafted.
So, Josh, how many round 2 wide receivers would you take ahead of Marvin Harrison?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't see how Jalen Waddle is 4 wide receiver spots after where Marvin Harrison Jr. is. I've been on this tear of how the Dolphins last year had so many 10-point, 20-point leads in first halves. And just to pull it up here, the stats that Tyreek Hill had in the second half, it totally declined. And it's even more so for Jalen Waddle. I mean, he had 23 catches, 306 yards, and 1 touchdown in all third and fourth quarters last season. And that's because when this team was in neutral pace and neutral play, they were the 3rd or 4th highest pass rate in the league, but they finished around 15th to 16th overall, again, just because of how far ahead they were. Vegas is only projecting this team for 9.5 wins. To me, that dictates more closer games. And if that's the case, I think Jalen Waddle, who I was not advocating to draft last year at his ADP, I am totally fine with taking him at the turn this year ahead of a bunch of those names.
There we go.
Even if it is, Tom, by the way, even if it is his team's wide receiver 2 versus another team's wide receiver 1, because I think with how the Dolphins play football, how awesome and aggressive and explosive it is, I'm okay with taking a team's second pass catcher versus a worse offense's primary pass catcher.
Yeah, absolutely. So official verdict on that one, Marvin Harrison Jr., overrated. If you are finding our videos for the first time, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button down below. We are ever so close to 3,000 subscribers. Here we do Dynasty, we do Best Ball, we do Redraft, we do DFS. We get you cooking all year long.